Welcome to Ruffing the Passer, show where I talk football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football, and the wind sure is howling. Anyways, in this week's episode, I will be covering headlines from the draft and giving you my thoughts on a few interesting draft picks like Bijan Robinson to the Atlanta Falcons. I will also be talking actual miscellaneous stuff this episode, and most importantly, I will be giving you my top 5 favorite draft picks, which you will not want to miss. It's around the middle of the video. So please, if you would like, stick around. But first, I want to get on to the Tennessee Titans drafting quarterback out of Kentucky, Will Levis, in the second round of the NFL draft. Trading up for him, mind you, from wherever they were to number 2 in the second round. And I've already made a video on why Will Levis falling is just so good for him. I mean, he was a raw quarterback coming out of college. He was very cocky. He was not the most well put together. He apparently struggled in interviews. He did weird things like take a picture in the bathroom with showing off his guns. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee. And he even had a video of him eating a banana with the peel on. And I'm sorry, that is the most heinous, disgusting thing I have ever seen. I can't believe anyone would consider or conceive of eating a banana. I mean, they're just so soft and taste terrible and gross. Why on earth would you even do that? Yeah, that's a red flag. I would take Will Levis, and man, I don't even know why he got drafted. That's just horrible. Should not have been drafted after that. Just unbelievable. But joking aside, you know, he had issues. He was very cocky, a little too cocky. He was very loose with the football, and people didn't think he was polished enough. And so it caused him to fall from what was projected to be, by many, a top 10 pick all the way to the second round. And honestly, I think this is great for him, as not only is the falling out of the second round going to light a fire under his patukas, his butt, his bum, so that he works harder, cleans up his mistakes, and tries to actually make it in the NFL a little harder. I mean, I don't know if he could land in a more perfect situation than the Tennessee Titans. Except there is one problem with the Tennessee Titans. One major flaw, which I will get onto later. But Will Levis being such a raw quarterback with such a gifted arm and great mobility and size and a brain, I mean, Tennessee's just perfect. I mean, what do raw quarterbacks need if they're going to develop? They need time and a competent starter. They are generally the first two things they need. And what is Tennessee going to give him? They're going to give him time, and a competent starter to learn from. Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback, but he's a very solid quarterback who's been in the league for 11 seasons. He knows the way around the game. He's had success, especially with the Tennessee Titans. He can impart some knowledge onto, Will Levis. They also have another raw quarterback who was a rookie last year in Malik Willis, who maybe can give him some, pointers on what the heck's about to happen to him when he steps out onto that field. But he's got time and he's got a great starter. Also, it's going to help that in Tennessee they have, the best running back in the NFL, in Derrick Henry, who has had a 2,000-yard rushing season, ran for 1,500 yards last season, ran for 900 yards in 2021, despite the fact that he missed half the season. He's been a perennial Pro Bowler. And so, Derrick Henry, coupled with an upgraded offensive line, because they went out and drafted a guard, I think, out of Northwestern, should really help Will Levis, because when you have a run game like that, Derrick Henry rushing for 100 yards a game, that will take off some pressure from having to perform early, having to make the big throws and get the team wins carrying them by yourself. They also have a good defense with Jeffrey Simmons and, other defensive players like Kevin Byard. I mean, just a really solid football team. And best of all, he's getting a great head coach in Mike Vrabel, who, I mean, he's one of the best in the NFL. He's not really a specific position coach, I guess defense, but he's more like one of those coaches that are just kind of a coach. I mean, he was a former player. He's tough. Players love him. He's just teaches solid football. He's kind of like Dan Campbell, a meathead, but a smart meathead, who just knows football in and out. And man, if you want to land if you're a raw quarterback and you want to succeed in the NFL, you need great coaching as well. I mean, just look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at Russell Wilson coming into the Seattle Seahawks. Look at Justin Herbert. Actually, it wasn't even Justin Herbert. But anyways, you get the point. Will Levis landing with Mike Vrabel is obviously going to be a huge help. It'll help him learn how to play quarterback, how to study, how to stay disciplined, how to build a team around him so he doesn't have to do everything. Great fit. There is just one major glaring flaw that is going to really stunt his development if it's not fixed. The Tennessee Titans may have the worst receiving core in the NFL, and that is not an exaggeration. They have Treylon Burks, who was their first-round pick from last year, and that's about all. And I don't know if I need to explain this to you, but I will. Generally in the NFL, if you want to succeed as a passer, you need some good receivers. And Tennessee does not have good receivers. I mean, especially if you're a young quarterback. Look at the ones that have succeeded lately. Look at their receiving cores. Joe Burrow. I mean, obviously he came to the NFL. He had A.J. Green. He had Tyler Boyd. He had... what's his name? T. Higgins. He obviously benefited from that, although he got injured in his first season in the NFL. But his second season, T. Higgins stepped up. Tyler Boyd's always been consistent. And they got the best receiver in the draft in Jamar Chase, who immediately impacted as a rookie. Look to Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, after sitting a year behind Alex Smith. What did he inherit? Travis Kelce, only the best tight end in the game. Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the NFL. And obviously Andy Reid. But you get the point. Those two top receiving targets in the NFL, that was crucial to his development. Look at Justin Herbert, who came in the NFL in 2020. Had either the worst or second worst O-line in the NFL. Yet he succeeded, broke the record for most touchdown passes in a single season as a rookie because he had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Hunter Henry. Even Geno Smith, a man who obviously was a backup for like 8 seasons, came into the Seattle Seahawks, and a big part of his success was having DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And now he gets JSN. Receivers who are that great can help you, can just take a lot of pressure off of you because they're going to be running wide open. Why do Alabama quarterbacks succeed in win so many games? They have receivers who are D1 athletes who are just 5 stars, wide open all the time. If you can get your quarterback receivers, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier of a development process. Look at quarterbacks who haven't had great receivers lately, who have been drafted. I mean, there was Baker Mayfield, who in his first season was great with Jarvis Landry. Terrible in his second year with Odell Beckham Jr. Wasn't great at the start of his third year with Odell Beckham. Odell got injured, Baker got better. Which is obviously strange, but I don't know. Anyways. Remember Dak Prescott before he had Amari Cooper? Then after he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb? He got a heck of a lot better. Sam Darnold, well, obviously, I think a lot of that was on his fault for not succeeding. He obviously didn't really have weapons in New York. Like, I can barely name, I don't know if I can name a receiver he had in New York. Denzel Mims? I don't know. Zach Wilson, the best receiver he had was Garrett Wilson. So, but other than that, he had Elijah Moore or Braxton Berrios. I mean, look at Mac Jones in 2021. He had obviously Josh McDaniels and what was his name? He had Jacoby Myers. Hunter Henry was going off that year. He had that what was his name? Nelson Aguilar was playing decent. What was the guy's name from Kendrick Bourne? He had Kendrick Bourne, who was pretty good. Then this last season, I mean, his best receivers were Jacoby Myers and whoever the guy out of Miami was. Yeah, there's a reason why these quarterbacks haven't done so well, and it's honestly due to lack of receivers. Receivers are just going to help you so much, and the fact that the Titans got rid of their best receiver from last season in, Robert Woods is not really that good for the health development of Will Levis, and will be a major problem if either A, Treylon Burks does not develop like he potentially could, or B, Tennessee doesn't make a drastic move to improve at receiver. If they don't get that right, yeah, Will Levis is in huge trouble, and that will be a major problem. If only they had like one of the best receivers in the game, and they should have just paid him. Maybe a guy who was in the Super Bowl, like first round pick value. I don't think they ever had a guy like that. Moving on. The NFL draft has come and gone, and of course with it, people have already begun ranking who had the best draft, who had the worst draft, who were the top 5 selections, as in best, not necessarily in order, of all players made, who was top 10, who was top 20. Newscasters are making these, video content creators are making these, nerds are ranking them for Reddit, geeks are ranking them as well, and they're getting into wars and arguments about it over on social media. Gas bag newscasters, sports podcasters are doing it. And if you want to watch who had the top 5 draft picks, this is not the video for that. I'm not entirely sure who were the top 5 best draft picks. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. However, I do have top 5 draft picks that I just really loved, even if they're strange and weird. I don't care. They were just my favorites. I really liked them. And in this video, I'll give you my top 5 favorite draft picks from the 2023 NFL Draft. Starting with honorable mentions. Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers. He was by far the most polished quarterback coming out of college. He won the Heisman as a sophomore in 2021. He lit up the SEC and deserved to be the first overall pick. He's definitely the most pro-ready. He's mobile. He's got a decent arm. He's extremely smart, hardworking. That is a great draft pick for the Carolina Panthers, but is not my favorite because they did have to give up 2 first-round picks and DJ Moore to move up to select him. So that's not really my favorite, but I certainly do like it and is an honorable mention. Another honorable mention would be the Buffalo Bills drafting Dalton Kincaid, not Thomas Kincaid. That's the artist, dang it. Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah, who was projected to be one of the best receivers, tight end receiving options in this draft class. They give Josh Allen yet another weapon, but this time he's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's smart, and he should help Buffalo overcome the Kansas City Chiefs and Cincinnati Bengals. I do like that, but it is not one of my favorites. And another honorable mention, my last honorable mention, would be any NFL team who decided to draft a kicker this year. I think it is a bold move, a bold strategy, but it's kind of funny, and I kind of like it. I mean, San Francisco drafted kicker in the 3rd round. There were other teams who drafted a kicker. Apparently, the fifth round selection a few years ago of Evan McPherson was enough to get teams to stop shying away from drafting kickers early and overcome the fear of having yet another Roberto Aguayo. A man who, conveniently, every time I saw a kick, missed a field goal in college. It was kind of funny. They're always talking about how he's the best kicker in college, and every time I watched him, he missed a kick. Which is kind of sad. But now on to the list. Number one. Number one, my favorite draft pick from the NFL draft was the Philadelphia Eagles drafting Jalen Carter 9th overall. The Eagles this offseason, after coming this close to winning the Super Bowl, if the refs had made the right call, they probably would have won the Super Bowl. Obviously lost a lot of pieces because teams want to poach from a Super Bowl winner or just the people who played in it. So they lost their offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, Javon Hargrave, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and lots of other pieces along the D-line and linebacking core and everywhere. And so they needed to rebuild, and thankfully they did manage to bring back guys like Brandon Graham and Darius Slay and make a few more signings. But what I love about this draft pick is that the Philadelphia Eagles not only made the Super Bowl, but the year they made the Super Bowl, they also had a second first-round pick, which they acquired from the New Orleans Saints last season for trading up to select Chris Olave. So they had that available and were able to stay around number 10. Now obviously traded up to number 9 and selected Georgia pass rusher Jalen Carter, who was considered by many to be maybe the best player in this draft. They can help rebuild a defensive line that lost Javon Hargrave. They have Jordan Davis. And I just love that draft pick. It is my favorite from this draft. My second favorite draft pick from the 2023 NFL Draft were the Indianapolis Colts selecting Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall. Anthony Richardson was an extremely raw quarterback prospect coming out of Florida. But boy, is he talented. He could throw a ball 80 yards on his knees probably. He runs like mad. He's ginormous. Just a freakish athlete who, if works out, could become an absolutely legendary quarterback. He already has a top 5 arm in terms of arm strength in the NFL right now. And the fact that the Colts got him is a very bold strategy, and I just love it because obviously it was the third quarterback off the board. You don't really know. You could have gone with Levis, who was slightly more polished, but not as high an upside. So they decided to go with Anthony Richardson. And you know what? I love it. Why not take a shot on a guy who was extremely raw, boom or bust, potentially could blow up their face, or not. Depends, who knows. Why not just draft him and see what happens? I mean, they hired a guy as a head coach, and Shane Steichen, who, if anyone's going to develop a raw quarterback into becoming great, it's him. I mean, he's done it with Justin Herbert. He's done it with Jalen Hurts. Could maybe do it with Anthony Richardson. The Colts, this is their 4th generational quarterback they drafted. Like the 5th all-time generational talented quarterback they've had. I mean, dating back to Johnny Unitas. Then they drafted John Elway and traded him. Then they drafted Jeff George, who had maybe the strongest arm in NFL history. Obviously, that didn't pan out. Then they had Peyton Manning. And now, that's 6. Then they had Andrew Luck, who was touted by many to be the greatest quarterback prospect of all time, even though I think that was a bit much. And now they have Anthony Richardson, who, if he works out, holy cow, that's going to be scary. I mean, it's like Josh Allen, but bigger. But it's like Josh Allen, Cam Newton, merged into one. That'll be terrifying for the NFL. And I just love the strategy, the boldness. Go for it, Colts. Great draft pick. My number 3 favorite draft pick are the Arizona Cardinals selecting Paris Johnson, left tackle out of Ohio State, number 6 overall. Touted by many to be the best left tackle in the draft. The Arizona Cardinals filled a position of need that they desperately needed by helping Kyler Murray, by giving him a great blindside blocker who should help him not get sacked, a billion times. In a year when they're already rebuilding, and maybe they'll look at Caleb Williams, but that's not what I like about this draft pick. What I really like about this draft pick is the fact that the Cardinals were originally picking number 3 overall. But they traded back with the Houston Texans and got the Houston Texans first round pick. Now, many think the Houston Texans will be one of the worst teams in the NFL, still, despite, drafting C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson and having a new coach and DeMeco Ryans. And this is just why I love this draft pick so much. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are already going to be a terrible team. They gutted players. They lost J.J. Watt. They lost Zach Allen. They lost A.J. Green. DeAndre Hopkins might be gone. Kyler Murray is out for most of the season with a torn ACL. And it's already going to be a tanking year. So the fact that they were able to trade back and get a first-round pick from the Texans, who will be absolutely atrocious, who might be terrible next year, is just unbelievable. And they were able to trade up and get their franchise left tackle this season, so that was great. But what I really like about this draft pick is, who's coming out of college next year? Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Caleb Williams is touted by many to become one of the all-time great quarterbacks in the NFL potentially. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he's got a great arm. Many are comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. And the Arizona Cardinals are going to be so bad potentially. It seems like on paper they might be the worst team in the NFL. That they will end up with maybe the number 1 overall pick to potentially draft Caleb Williams. And if that doesn't happen, the Houston Texans might be so bad they might get the first overall pick, which would go to Arizona. And this is why I love this so much. Because if Arizona ends up with the first overall pick from either Houston or just themselves being bad, they can trade that number 1 overall pick. And because Caleb Williams is going to be so sought after next season, they could get him. They could get like 3 first-round picks for him for that draft pick next season. 3 first-rounders. And you wouldn't be surprised. They could turn 2 first-round picks. If they wanted to go mad and trade back twice, they could get 4 first-round picks from just 2 draft picks. Maybe even 5 first-round picks from 2 draft picks. Or they can keep it and draft Caleb Williams to replace Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray is already one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, so you could use that draft pick, build that, trade back, get a bunch of players, rebuild. It's not so much the Paris Campbell draft pick, but what they got in the trade back that I absolutely love. And it is one of my favorites. Just the possibilities are endless for Arizona next season if they are so bad and the Texans are so bad. I mean, if they're fall behind a little bit, they can use those 2 draft picks plus 1 next year to move up to draft Caleb Williams if they want. You never know. I see this as an absolute win. Number 4 on my favorite draft pick is one that I actually despise because it is so brilliant and so annoying and so frustrating. You know what team I have grown to hate over the last year? The Seattle Seahawks. I thought they were a team that was kind of nice. They had Russell Wilson, they had Pete Carroll, and yes, they absolutely destroyed my Broncos in the Super Bowl, and I haven't gotten over that. But I thought when Russell Wilson was being wasted in Seattle, and he wanted to move on, I thought the fans would be nice to him, be kind, be appreciative of all the good he's done for them, bringing them to back-to-back Super Bowls, winning them a Super Bowl, bringing them 9 straight winning seasons. I thought they would love that. Just be patting him on the back, but no. I come to find out that after he's traded, Seattle just turns on Russell Wilson, just completely. The fan base attacks him. They say he's overrated. They say in Geno we trust. And you know what the worst part about all of it is? That I had to watch the Seahawks fans trash my Denver Broncos. Trash Russell Wilson. And they were right about it. That's the worst part about this. They were right about trashing Russell Wilson. They got better after he left. They got the 5th overall pick, despite trashing a guy who's won you your only Super Bowl. And it just bugs me that they are good while I'm still left here questioning why the Denver Broncos are bad and whether or not they'll be good next season, whether or not Russ can rebound with Sean Payton. Why should I have to ask these questions? Why? Why do we live in this world anyways? It really bugs me. And what bugs me even more is the fact that these Seahawks are getting even better with my 4th favorite draft pick, the Seahawks landing at number 20, because of course, the best receiver in the draft, Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. This team already has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. They have a good run game with Kenneth Walker. They drafted another running back. They have a good O-line now. They have a potential Rich Gannon 2.0 and Geno Smith. They drafted the best corner in the draft at number 5 from my Denver Broncos pick. They got Draymond Jones. They have Noah Fant, who could potentially turn around. And it gets even worse as they draft Jackson Smith-Njigba, a man who is so great. He's better than he's been compared to better than their other top receivers at Ohio State, like Jamison Williams and maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. And the Seattle Seahawks land him. Ugh! Why? I don't even know. Congratulations, Seattle. You have one of my favorite but most despised draft picks. Good job. Just go away now. Moving on to number 5. My 5th favorite draft pick from the NFL draft, and last on this list, would be the Detroit Lions in the 3rd round, selecting quarterback Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. I just love it when teams go after potentially boomer bust quarterbacks who were, projected to go in the 1st round, but fell due to injury or age or something else, like, say, Hendon Hooker, who was a man who was touted to be a 1st-round pick this year, potentially, but because he tore his ACL near the end of last season, and he's 25, fell out of the 1st round all the way to the 3rd round, and landed with the Detroit Lions. And this is such a great draft pick. I mean, first of all, quarterback. I don't know if you can really go wrong drafting a quarterback as long as it's outside the 1st round, because you never know. It could succeed. It might not succeed. But Hendon Hooker is a big man. He's like 6'3", 6'4", I don't know. He's got a huge arm. He was absolutely dominant on a Tennessee team last year, which could have vied for a national championship, but just came up a little short. He did lead them against past Alabama. And for a team like Detroit, who had 2 1st-round picks and are looking primed to win the NFC North, I think this is just a good move. Because Hendon Hooker doesn't have to play immediately. He can sit and learn behind Jared Goff, who's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL, who's potentially the 2nd best quarterback in the NFC, which is strange to say. And, yeah, I mean, he's extremely talented. There are obviously concerns that he ran a very simple offense in Tennessee. And he was 25 playing against, 19-year-olds. So there's that. But I just love this draft pick. I just really, really love this draft pick because if he works out, man, that'll be a really good, fit. I mean, that'll just be good for the Detroit Lions. They can move on from Goff and get a more talented, potentially better quarterback in there. In Hendon Hooker, they already have one of the best offense in the NFL. They already have great receivers like Jameson Williams, who, as long as he doesn't gamble, should be fine. They have a good running back. They had drafted another running back. They have a decent O-line. They didn't have. They traded T.J. Hawkinson. That was weird. But other than that, yeah, I really like that draft pick just in case it booms or busts. If it busts, oh well. What are you gonna do as a third-round pick? It's quarterback. If he booms really big. So those are my top 5 draft picks from the NFL draft. I hope you agree with me. If not, let me know in the comments below on your 5 favorite draft picks. On whether or not you think these are good. It doesn't matter. Let me know your 5 favorite draft picks in the comments below. Moving on. May the 4th happened recently. The 4th of May, which was what? What day is it? That happened 6 days ago, less than a week. And because it's May the 4th, you have to watch a Star Wars movie. And so, we did, me and my family did. But of course, my brother decided to pick, of all Star Wars movies, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I was not excited to watch this movie. And after watching it, I am just left disappointed. Just utterly saddened. Because, while I'm going to say it now, I do like The Rise of Skywalker. It's not a good movie. It is a really bad movie. But I find it hilarious, the plot choices they made, the fan theories they went with, the fact that they tried to undo Episode 8 completely. It's so bonkers, so stupid, so unbelievably dumb that I just love the fact that it was actually made, that they actually went for it. But man, watching it, oh my gosh, I was just left disappointed. Just like, there is so much potential in this movie. So much potential in the sequels that was absolutely wasted. Just why? Why? There are so many cool concepts in that movie. I mean, you have, for starters, the Knights of Ren. That weird cult thing that kind of follows us around, Kylo Ren. They were obviously teased in The Force Awakens, and we thought they were going to be something very special. They were like a bunch of Force users, we all thought. Maybe a bunch of Inquisitor 2.0s. Ooh, what are they going to do? Are they going to team up with Kylo? Are they going to face off all against Rey and take her down? What's going to happen? Are they some special forces unit? Nope, they're just a bunch of random dudes that kind of follow around. Kylo Ren. Kind of lame. And they get their butts kicked at the end by him when he turns good, so yeah, that's kind of wasted. We have Palpatine returning. Why did Palpatine return? Why? The entire point of Palpatine dying in Episode 6 was fulfilling Anakin's character arc of having him be slowly corrupted by Emperor Palpatine throughout the first 3 movies of the prequel trilogy, to then end up serving him all throughout 4 through 6, to then having him realize his own mistake, overcome his master who was actually just, manipulating him, ruining his life and all that, to finally end him by throwing him off the side of the into the Death Star reactor to kill him and bring balance to the Force and save his son when Palpatine lied about potentially saving Padme. It was a beautiful, rough, but good in concept character arc that was completely undone by Palpatine coming back. I mean, what was the entire point of Anakin Skywalker now, if he doesn't kill Palpatine? What, is Rey now the chosen one? Did Anakin's sacrifice mean nothing? Because it just came back anyways and blew up another planet and created another First Order. Like, what? What's the point of Palpatine anymore? Why did they bring him back? They could have done so many different things with this stupid movie. They could have had Snoke be alive, but no, Rian Johnson had to kill him. They could have had General Hux be the main villain or something. I don't know. They could have had Rey join Kylo at the end of Episode 8, which would have been the only actual subversion of expectations that would have worked there, Rian Johnson. That would have been cool, but no, we couldn't have that. We could have had the Yuzong Vong from Legends show up. You know, that alien race which is entirely made of organic life forms, like their ships are organic, they are organic, their weapons are organic, are all living. It's kind of weird but cool. They could have showed up to take over the galaxy, and you could have given a reason for why the Death Star, the Emperor Palpatine built the Death Star. So that it's because he, he saw the threat of the Yuzong Vong in the future, and he wanted to stop them then and there. He just got corrupted by power along the way. That would have been cool, but no, we had to go with bringing Palpatine back. That's just such a wasted opportunity. I mean, obviously the biggest wasted opportunity might be killing off Luke Skywalker, not having on Luke and Leia in a scene, but that was more of The Force Awakens. And another thing, one of the few interesting tidbits from The Last Jedi that should have been brought over, and kind of was, but wasn't really done very well, was General Hux's power struggle against Kylo Ren. I mean, in the movie, you have General Hux being the spy that tells the Resistance about the fact Emperor Palpatine's back, and it's just kind of strange and goofy and not developed well. And, oh dear goodness. I mean, at the end of The Last Jedi, when you see Kylo Ren on the floor after Holdo pulls that stupid maneuver which breaks the entire series, he sees Kylo Ren on the floor, unconscious, and he's about to pull out a blaster to shoot him. When Kylo Ren wakes up and says, "Prepare to take a transport to Crate so we can take out the Resistance once and for all," and all that crap. And you see that they have a lot of tension between them on that battlefield in the Guerrilla Walker when Ben Solo's Kylo Ren's going absolutely insane, trying to kill Luke Skywalker's vision with all the gunfire, and then Hux thinks he's absolutely mad and says, "That's enough!" Wouldn't it have been cool if General Hux was planning a coup on, whatever his name is? Oh yeah, Kylo Ren. Wouldn't that have been cool? You have Hux and half of the First Order, all the officers and maybe half the military, versus Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren and the other half of the military fight off against each other. They start damaging each other so much that the Resistance, who is in, absolute tatters and broken and whatever, can actually rally and pick off whoever loses that fight, whoever wins that fight, because they're so broken by the war against each other. That would have been interesting. It would have been also interesting is maybe with the Yuzong Vong showing up. If that happened, you could have the Resistance and First Order work together to try and take them down. Or if you're going to bring Palpatine back with the Final Order, which makes no sense, like, how the heck did they escort a bunch of troops and admirals and train them out on the unknown regions where you can barely where you have to fly through a nebula which could blow you up at any moment to train? I don't even know to get there. What would have been cooler is if he shows up during a battle between the Resistance, what should be maybe is the final battle between the Resistance and the First Order, and they realize their mistake and they have to team up and fight Emperor Palpatine. That would have been cool, but no, they decided not to go with that. It just makes me sad because there's so many cool elements to that story, like, you know, Han Solo appearing to Ben to help him turn to the light side. That was cool. You have the whole visions and the Death Star, even though that was the way they got there was blech. That could have been cool. Princess Leia, you know, sacrificing herself to get her son back to the light side, that was pretty cool. Luke Skywalker using the Force to lift the X-Wing out of the lake, and after all these years, that brought a smile to my face. That was awesome. Could have had Finn do something like lead a Stormtrooper rebellion. That would have been sick. They didn't do that. Yeah. It's just such a wasted opportunity. Just so sad. Because, you know what, I think that maybe this is an unpopular opinion now, but like if J.J. Abrams got to do the entirety of the sequel trilogy, it obviously wouldn't have been some masterpiece. It wouldn't have been like the original trilogy. It may not have the narrative cohesion of the prequel trilogy. But it would have at the very least been his idea, his vision. He would have probably brought out the Knights of Ren and maybe answer some questions, have Snoke be the actual main bad guy. Maybe it would have been like his Star Trek trilogy, which obviously for old Star Trek fans is absolutely despised. And that's fair. And the first two were good-ish, and the last one apparently was really bad. But it would have been solid. Star Wars would probably still be doing okay. It wouldn't have been the other disaster it is right now. And it's just kind of sad we never got to see that because Rian Johnson decided to completely ruin everything. Well, Disney ruined everything, and they kind of deserve to have that backfire in their face, though, so. Oh well. It just really bugs me. Oh, you know what would actually really been cool? Is if Rey joins Kylo at the end of The Last Jedi, and throughout most of the movie she's learning to use the dark side of the Force, and then eventually she turns back to the good. That would have been cool. Maybe with the Sith Wayfinder, they had to use 2 of them to find Palpatine, so Rey would have to tap into the dark side, like when, at the end of Season 2, or near the beginning of Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels, when Ezra had to tap into the dark side to open and use a holocron to do some weird Force thing with Darth Maul. That was sick. Something like that. Just so many potential ideas. Just either not fleshed out, just completely wasted. You know, Poe Dameron being a Spice Runner could have been cool. That movie just makes me sad. Just makes me sad. Because I liked it. It's so bonkers. It's enjoyable. It's terrible, but it's enjoyable. But it just could have been so much better. But Disney got what they deserved. They really did. Right, so my battery died yesterday, so I couldn't finish the episode, so I'm back today. That's why I have a new shirt. It's not because I just changed it. Anyways, I have one more thing to say about Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. You know that scene near the end of the movie? After Ben Solo turns good, he arrives on Exegol to face down Emperor Palpatine with Rey. Remember how he flies in on a TIE fighter and parks right next to Luke's X-Wing? Well, I cannot believe that in that shot that they have of Luke's X-Wing right next to the TIE fighter, they failed to use the opportunity to have Kylo Ren fly in on Darth Vader's TIE fighter and land it right next to Luke's X-Wing. So then you just have a shot of Luke's X-Wing with his father's TIE fighter. It would have been so cool, and I cannot believe they wasted that opportunity to do so. I mean, this is a movie which brought back all the fan service. Hey, look, it's Lando. Hey, look, it's Emperor Palpatine. Hey, look, Emperor Palpatine said the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural. Hey, look, it's Luke lifting an X-Wing out of the water. They have all that, but yet somehow they failed to notice that they could just use Darth Vader's TIE fighter to fly in Kylo Ren for the final battle. It would have made a lot more sense too, because TIE fighters in, canon, the Star Wars canon, don't have hyperdrives. And there is no way Kylo Ren's going to get there in time without a hyperdrive from, the moon of Endor. Well, obviously not Endor itself, but one of the moons surrounding the moon of Endor. All the way to Exegol. I know, I think later they explained that it was, in fact, just a special TIE fighter that had a hyperdrive. But I mean, it would have been a lot cooler if it was Darth Vader's TIE fighter, just because of the symbiotic connection. And the fact that, we already know it has a hyperdrive. That would have just been neat. But no, they somehow messed that up as well. Just another reason why these movies were such a failure, and that one in particular. Just wasted opportunities. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments below. If you disagree with me, let me know. I want to know your thoughts on Star Wars in general. And yeah, now with the miscellaneous stuff over. Well, actually, one more thing. Do you like me talking about miscellaneous stuff? Because I certainly thought it was fun. I'd do it again. If you guys like it, I'd do it. Just let me know. Back on to the rest of the video. Well, at least back on to football. My final topic of today is one that is quite controversial. The Atlanta Falcons selected running back Bijan Robinson from Texas with the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft. And let's just say it may or may not have sparked a civil war down in Georgia. Fans of the Atlanta Falcons are outraged at this draft pick not because Bijan's a bad player, but because there were other needs on the team, like potentially quarterback. They definitely needed more defenders, like a pass rusher. And so they just don't get the move of selecting a running back, especially for a team that is already top 5 in the NFL in rushing. Now, I was trying to figure out why they would do this move, and after doing some digging around, doing some thinking, I think I can understand why the Atlanta Falcons decided to go with Bijan Robinson here at 8 overall. Now, whether or not I agree with it is completely not to the point of this video. I just think this is why Arthur Smith went with that. I mean, first of all, just look at his history. Arthur Smith is a man who previously has loved the running backs and the running games. He definitely loves a star running back. I mean, he helped turn around Derrick Henry's career in 2019. Derrick Henry rushed for 1,500 yards under Arthur Smith because he was the offensive coordinator of Tennessee Titans. In 2020, he rushed for 2,000 yards with Arthur Smith as OC. So going over to Atlanta, he didn't really have a star running back for his first 2 seasons. Obviously, Cordero Patterson became great as a running back, and Tyler Algier was a surprise from last season. But this man clearly wants his own star running back, and it was just sitting there at number 8, Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs to come out since Saquon Barkley. Just fell right into his lap, and yeah, why not pick him up and use him to the best of your abilities. So I think that plays into why he selected, Bijan Robinson. Also, while yes, the Falcons were 5th in rushing last season, or at least top 5. There's still room for improvement. I mean, they could go from, with Bijan, they could go from top 5 to maybe top 3, maybe even number 1 in the NFL. And I mean, if you're number 1 in the NFL in rushing, that's going to be huge because, you know, you can keep your offense on the field, keep the defenses gassed, keep opposing offenses off the field, and drain all the clock. And so I think that's another reason he decided to draft Bijan Robinson. And I know running back is not really a valued position anymore. It's, you generally in the NFL nowadays have to win with star quarterbacks and star receiving street receivers and all that. But running back is still useful. I mean, just look at the New York Giants last season. They were practically carried to the playoffs by Saquon Barkley. I mean, their offense was Saquon Barkley and not a lot else. Obviously, Daniel Jones rushed as well and had 15 touchdowns, but Saquon had like, what, 14 touchdowns? Almost as many as Daniel Jones threw. And that team that had no receivers just played defense, ran the ball, and made the playoffs. I think that Arthur Smith thinks that he can do the same in Atlanta with Desmond Ridder, who, well, I mean, can just manage a game like Daniel Jones, probably. I mean, at the end of the last season, he won 2 games. He only had 1 turnover in 4 games. And no interceptions. Now, granted, he only had 2 touchdown passes, but I think that Arthur Smith thinks that with Desmond Ridder going into his 2nd season, if he can just limit him to, you know, only like 7 turnovers on the year, keep the turnovers down, and score maybe 15 to 20 touchdowns with him, that they can be a playoff contender. I mean, the Falcons do have some decent pieces on offense. They have, obviously, Cordero Patterson and Tyler Algier. I don't know if Cordero is going to stay around because he's getting older, he's expensive. You could definitely trade him. But now you add Bijan Robinson to that, so that's a great running back core. They already have a talented tight end in Kyle Pitts. They just have to use him. They have a promising young receiver in Drake London. And they brought in Jonnu Smith this offseason, who last had success with Arthur Smith as his OC. So I think Arthur Smith thinks he can just pull off another Giant season, only with better players on offense, honestly. I mean, Desmond Ridder may not be the most talented quarterback in the NFL, but he did not have a lot of turnovers. You can just keep those turnovers down, keep those touchdowns up. The Falcons can go places, especially in a division, which is really, really bad. Well, not terrible, but not good. I mean, Brady left from last season. The Panthers have a new young rookie quarterback. And the Saints went from, you know, a team with a quarterback that hasn't had a playoff win to a quarterback that still doesn't have a playoff win in Derek Carr. They didn't really upgrade a quarterback. And they're in cap, you know, heck. They lost some players. The Falcons did win 7 games last year and would have made the playoffs if it weren't for a bad roughing the passer call against the Buccaneers. So, I mean, with an upgraded rushing attack, limited turnovers, weapons, Drake London in his 2nd year, upgraded defense, I think that Arthur Smith thinks that he can just win 9 games and make the playoffs. And honestly, the biggest reason for why the Falcons went with Bijan Robinson here is that Arthur Smith's going to be on the hot seat. I mean, he's been there for 2 seasons. I was surprised he wasn't fired after last season, but he has a 14-20 record, which is back-to-back 7-10 seasons. It's not good. This is his last year to prove it as a head coach, and honestly, you're not going to get wins trying to develop a young rookie quarterback in a guy like Will Levis. I mean, what's he going to do there? You have to develop him, have him win games, and somehow keep your job. And I know it's selfish, but Arthur Smith's solely focused on keeping his job here. And so why not go out there and select the best player in the draft, or at least the most ready player in the draft in Bijan Robinson, and just try and win the game on the ground, limit turnovers, play defense, and just get 8 or 9 wins and make the playoffs potentially, and save your job for next season. Now, obviously, next season they're in quite a conundrum at quarterback, but you know what? I think that's why Arthur Smith did it. He really needs to save his job, so why not just get what you're comfortable with, get that running back, try and win games that way. It may not be flashy. It may not be a potentially great quarterback in Will Levis, who knows what if that will work out. It may not be a Hendon Hooker. Desmond Ridder may not work out, but you know what? He needs to save his job, and he's going to stick to his guns. And so I can understand that, and I think that is why the Atlanta Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments below and share your thoughts on the Falcons draft pick and Bijan Robinson. This has been Roughing the Passer, the show that has talked football, actual miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I thank you very much for watching. If you would please hit the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Hit that bell to stay notified for all future uploads. Hit that like button and share this with your friends and family. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you later. Have a great day. Goodbye.